Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, it is the weekly Beacon TVL Roundtable. My name is Chris, co-founder of Beacon DeFi. Happy to have you here for our weekly show. We actually will have our guest coming on in just a little bit. It is ETH from Beefy, one of my favorite protocols in all of DeFi. We'll talk a little bit about Beefy, what they're up to, learn more about their concentrated liquidity. That's something that a lot of people are very curious about. How Beefy, a classic optimizer and auto compounder, can do concentrated liquidity. Something that's not the easiest thing to do. So excited to talk to him about that. We'll also talk a little bit about today's news as well. Give me 1 second while I just put the news out on our Twitter. So we do simulcast this on our YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com at Beacon DeFi. /live. And then we also have it on our Twitter account. So I need to make sure people can see that. So make sure you follow us if you're on our YouTube channel. Like the stream, we'd love it for the algorithm. We'll also look at following us on Twitter as well. So twitter.com or x.com/Beacon DeFi. Would love to have you a part of everything we have here in this space. I wanted to talk a little bit about our most recent boot camp that happened on Saturday for our Beacon Accelerator members. So hello to our Beacon founding members and our Beacon Accelerator members who are part of the boot camp. 6.25 hours of getting people from zero to pro as a DeFi farmer, getting them started with time with me, and also learning about airdrops, which is a big topic in here. So if you're interested in that, catching the replay and getting ready for our next monthly bootcamp, which will be next month, I believe, on August 17th. You can sign up. There's a post in TVL, Total Value Locked, our free group, to do that. Speaking of TVL, wanted to bring them to your attention real quick. School.com/Beacon. Let me put the banner here on the screen. Absolutely free to join us. Join the hundreds of others. We set this group up as a new incarnation of our free. Actually, my VPN is on, so I might be a little funky. Let me disconnect. Okay, I think we're back. Hit me a comment if I'm kind of laggy. I know that there's a little bit of a lag there, but in any case, our free group here, school.com/Beacon. Learn from the best in the business. If you want to learn more about DeFi, understand that right now there's a lot of news coming about a lot of people very curious about crypto with everything going on with Bitcoin this week. We're going to talk about that, the ETH ETFs. You may be holding some crypto in your wallet and you're not really sure what to do with it. Decentralized Finance, Web3 gives you a way to take that and just make it work for you while you sleep. Awesome ways to generate passive income. So you're not just holding coins. Now you can certainly trade them, but we are not a trading group. We do believe that trading can be a very risky proposition. Most people do lose money when they trade. So we prefer doing yield farming opportunities and staking and things like that to better put your money to work. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can do so absolutely free with our free group, your Total Value Locked, school.com/Beacon. That said, we'll take a quick look at the markets. What a difference a week makes, right? We're holding at 66K, very close to the all-time high. Of course, that was at 73. But with all the news coming with this week, I do expect we're going to see a little bit more news. We may possibly just range in this area, so we're definitely going higher than we had been. And just really excited about what we're going on here with Bitcoin ETH ETF. Of course, we're a little bit down on the 7-day, but overall we should be going up, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But so far we're doing pretty good with the movement here on the chart. I think there's definitely like a buy the news type of thing, right? Buy the rumor, sell the news. So we're gonna be seeing how this is going to play out, and I'm excited to see how this week is going to happen, because ultimately this week is going to be a pivotal week in crypto history. We're going to be able to look back on this week specifically, in my opinion, and we're going to see big changes coming from this week, or this could be like the fulcrum that moves things in the next direction. And we'll just jump into the ETH ETF, because I think that'll be the next thing that we definitely want to talk about. Yesterday, the ETH ETFs, which were approved previously, but the S1s, which allow them to be listed on exchanges, didn't go live until until last week. I'm sorry. I think that the amendment was due last Tuesday, so that it was available for trading as of today. Now, I'm sorry, yesterday. We called the Bitcoin ones the newborn 9. These are just the new 8. There were 8 that got approved. We have, and they're listed on multiple exchanges, which I think is interesting. So on Cboe's BZX, we have the Invesco, the 21 shares, and the Fidelity, along with the Franklin and the Van Eck. That's where the majority of them are going to be on the Cboe exchange. NASDAQ actually has the iShares Trust, along with, which is created by BlackRock, and that's just trading under ETHA. And then ARCA on the New York Stock Exchange also has the Bitwise and the grayscale versions. So this is directional exposure for allowing regular investors who have access to U.S. markets to now, without investing directly in crypto, right, to have access to ETFs, which will give you that exposure that you're looking for. Now, according to one of our big sources, Eric Balchunas from Bloomberg, I'm going to go ahead and bring in EP as he's here. Good to see you, Pete.
Hey, how's it
going? Going well. Probably want to switch your mic to your headset mic, actually. But according to Eric Balchunas, we did have pretty decent inflows. Now, there are outflows from the Grayscale Ethereum Trust, where a lot of previous exposure was through Grayscale. It was overcome by the inflows to settle at a just under 107 million inflow for day number 1. This is good news, right? Because we definitely want to see growth. We want to see movement. It's going to take a little bit for the effects of this to take place. You're going to have, we had this with the Bitcoin ETF. It took 6 to 8 weeks in order for that to really become, a huge thing. So we just rather see the effects of the inflows on the price of Bitcoin. So ultimately, we will go up from here. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we do need to see multiple days of inflows, of net inflows, outpacing the outflows on stuff like this. So I know, Pete, that we're probably not the target audience for this ETH ETF, but it is bullish news overall for crypto. Do you know anybody who's interested in something like this?
No, I don't. I don't really talk investments with anyone.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah. It would happen a little bit when I was actually in an office and just kind of have more casual conversations, but it's
Fair.
like, don't really want to put those out on like the Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever platform everyone uses to chat with.
On Microsoft Teams.
Not put in an official record.
The new water cooler on Microsoft Teams, where everybody's just talking about the ETH ETF that's going out. But yeah, this is good news. They're calling themselves the new 8, or at least that's what they're labeling them as. If you check out Eric Balchunas' Twitter, there's a link on today's post.
Connection?
Oh no, I don't know. Did I lose connection? I can hear you. Your video's frozen. But yeah, if you check out Eric's actual Twitter profile, there is a post here reposted from James Seifert, another major analyst in the space, where they have created a pre-made worksheet on WSL Go. So if you have the subscription to WSL Go, you can actually get real-time data to monitor the inflows and outflows of the new ETH ETF, which is pretty cool in my opinion. So if you're looking for something like that, definitely check Eric's Twitter. I will put this link here in the chat. Excellent source to go for information, and he's always on point with that type of stuff. So yeah, like I was mentioning before you hopped on, EP, this is gonna be a pretty pivotal week, I think, for crypto in terms of historical events that will affect the space. If we come back to this a year from now, and we're in a much
absolutely.
different space, this was going to be good or bad. I'm assuming good is going to be, a really pivotal time in what's going on this week specifically. So I wanted to thank you for coming on specifically for this week, because I know you've got some great takes on stuff like this. But how do you feel about this week?
And
That's
I
what I
think you
want
were
to start
already
out with.
touching on this probably before I joined, as far as it goes with like um, the difference in fees between the Grayscale versus pretty much all the other ETFs, and how that's why, well, the fact that people have basically been like locked into Grayscale's ETF for a long time, so could have unrealized profits, and then the fact that they're at a like 2.5% fee versus basically nothing the others are in comparison. So
Oh yeah, that gap is going to close pretty quickly. I think, especially with everything going on.
are you able to hear me?
That, oh, am I muted? I'm okay. Okay. But yeah, I think with
Yeah,
everything
you're
going,
good right now. It kind
okay.
of it's dropping.
Yeah, I kind of glitched myself. I'm like, "Where?" But yeah, we'll see exactly what happens. But one thing I wanted to bring up is something that Bitwise did. One of the they did something really interesting. They took their addresses and they actually tied them in to ENS subnames. So now there are specific domains specifically for these ETH holding addresses. This is great because this brings about transparency for the most part, and by registering their ETH addresses with ENS domains, now they can tie these into things like Doom dashboards, Token Terminal, Arkham Intelligence. I mean, these things could all be built from a dashboard perspective through APIs, and you'll know exactly, what they're doing in terms of volatility, what the reserves are, what the results are in real time. I really hope that other groups here like Van Eck or even BlackRock, and some of these other large custodians of these things do something very similar. I think this is a really classy move by them to put this out here. So yeah, I hope we see more of this out there. And I know you like Dune dashboards, Pete, so maybe you can play around with this to get something fun out of that. But yeah, so one thing that they're also doing besides registering these domains is they're also donating 10% of profits to Ethereum open source development. To this, I thought this was an even cooler move because there are multiple, people who are dedicated to open source development in Ethereum, and the ability to have them, doing really well and helping with development on Ethereum overall, I think is very bullish. I think it's great. I'm really happy about this move as well, besides making the transparency of what's going on with them. So EP, is it my connection or your connection that's spotty? Just curious.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm seeing a pretty higher ping than normal and speeds lower than normal, but seems okay at the moment.
Okay, no, I worry it was me. So if you're in the comments, please let me know. Am I glitchy, or just let me know. Let me know, because I can certainly find ways to get. I turned off my VPN. Now I knew that was one thing that was going to be a thing. So once I did
Okay.
that,
Yeah, I did the
things are
same
a little
thing.
funky.
So
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Yeah, for some reason this is why it does that here on StreamYard. I'm not really sure, but it is what it is. So yeah, big move by Bitwise to make this all transparent. Big move by Bitwise to donate to Ethereum public goods in terms of they're donating to the Protocol Guild and the PBS Foundation. And got a shout out from Vitalik, co-founder of Ethereum, just for that. So good to see that. Good to see good transparency. Custodians taking the responsibility to report on things that they have going on. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what
no,
this is
yeah.
Nate. Day two, right? Yeah. So I'm excited to see what happens here, but it's all good for ETH.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely outstanding what they're doing there. Just being fully transparent, and anybody can come in and audit their actual holdings. I mean, traditional finance, it's like one of the things that we like about DeFi is like having this transparent of you can actually see who's holding the money and not just like showing you a number on a screen and just completely BSing you.
Exactly. And this is one reason why, even though they're centralized, what I really liked about uh, Circle, the caretakers of USDC, as well as when Paxos was still doing BUSD, but now they're doing PYUSD, which is from PayPal. They put out monthly audits about the backing. They're very transparent about being able to verify these details. And that's one thing that I think hopefully more protocols do, whether they're in TradFi or decentralized finance, is to put out information that helps people here. Uh, yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah. I'm 100% rooting for them across all of it. Like normally I really wouldn't care, but
Yeah,
I think with this step, like I hope they end up getting substantial share of the ETF flows.
I agree. I'm trying to think where they are on this photo. So Bitwise would be, that's Bitcoin. They would be, I'm trying to look for the ticker, and it's not quite showing up here, but
Yeah. So it might not be in
regardless,
the, yeah.
good on them for doing this. That you can actually just check out their website to get more about their fund and what they're looking for. So, not to be outdone, obviously this week is huge also for Bitcoin. This is the international uh, Bitcoin conference, Bitcoin 2024, happening in Nashville tomorrow, headlined by a pretty big foursome here. Michael Saylor, of course, one of the largest Bitcoin investors in the world with MicroStrategy. Kathy Wood, of course, from 21 Shares and ARK, rather from ARK, not 21 Shares. Rob ETH Denver regarding crypto as part of his platform. And of course, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, who is the front runner on the Republican ticket right now, who is going to most likely use this as a way to talk a lot about what his cryptocurrency policy is going to be. There was, with President Biden, saying he wasn't going to run for re-election and endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris, there was news that she was going to, they reached out to try and speak at this conference. We found out this morning she has since declined to do so, and probably in the best interest of her, to be quite honest, for her not to come to this one, based on there's a lot of, at this moment at least, negative, or rather skepticism on her support specifically for crypto based on the current administration's policies towards crypto.
It's also like day 4 of her campaign, so I'm sure there's a couple of things that she's trying to deal with at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think going head to head with with the Donald Trump at this venue is probably best for her campaign. Honestly, a little too early. She's going to have to try and figure out a better strategy. I will say that there was some other. Well, let me go back to the speaker list, because they have an immaculate list of speakers on this panel, not just from those four, but they still have Edward Snowden and Russell Brand's there too, Vivek Ramaswamy, but they have multiple U.S. Congress people, senators, and House Representatives members, and we have multiple people from a ton of different industry trades, protocols, some really interesting stuff that's here that I'm actually very curious to see how it all ties together. Hopefully they live stream the majority of this if you can't make it there. So yeah,
Have you
I'm
ever
excited to see.
attended any of their previous conferences?
I have not.
I
Have
haven't
you?
either.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I'm sure they're going to have a huge floor with they're going to have a huge floor with all kinds of people speaking and just booths everywhere, much like how ETH Denver was. So curious to see how this comes out. I didn't have it on the agenda. Let me see if I can pull it up. Lightning Labs has announced today that they have made the leap. Lightning Labs, not Lightning Locks. I'm not gonna be able to find it, but Lightning Labs with the ability to, yeah, tap multiple types of taproot assets. That's not them. Are now available. Now, when I was when I woke up this morning. So what this means is that soon, on at least on Taproot Lightning, you're going to be able to send more than just Bitcoin across here. So stable coins, multiple types of assets will be there. So very early again with Bitcoin Fi. I think we'll hear a little bit more of this, hopefully, here at the Bitcoin conference. But it'll be very interesting. So oh, it looks like it looks like Susan's going to be there. So yeah, if anybody's heading there, please look out for the head of Women's Wealthy Ways, and have a little meetup. That'd be great. I wish I could make it there, but unfortunately I cannot. So, and not a shocker that Elon's going to be there. So yeah, this will be very interesting. They have a lot of interesting speakers here. I'm looking to see if some of the others that we've talked to, like, okay, so Casey will be there. Casey Rodarmor, who's the creator of both Runes and Ordinals. So that'll be an interesting talk. I'm very curious to see where we go from here, specifically with this. Even Chris Cyborg. Hey, okay then. Well, it's going to be one crazy show. Let's put it that way. So I'm curious to see what happens from here. Yeah, I'm. There should be, I think, over the next couple of days, I think we'll see a little bit more pump in Bitcoin. I hope so. Trade shows like these will do that. And hopefully we'll get some rumor things going, which will make things go even harder. But all eyes on this are on Trump, without a doubt. Even the CEO of the event, after saying that VP Harris wasn't coming, took a couple shots at her, and then just like really just dumped it back onto welcoming Trump. Rumors are that he's going to say a couple things about his crypto policy, his proposed crypto framework, should he be elected as the president of the United States, such as a framework specifically around digital assets, probably much different than what President Biden's current framework is, and also the idea of using Bitcoin miners to stabilize the U.S. energy grid. Love to see how he's going to do that, but it's not the worst idea I've ever heard, honestly. To be able to have Bitcoin miners at major plants and taking the proceeds of that and strengthening grids, strengthening infrastructure. I don't think it's a terrible idea. I'm surprised that places like Texas don't do that now, quite honestly. And even having a strategic BTC reserve, something that I believe RFK Jr. said at Denver. And when I hear that, I just think of Terraform Labs about having a BTC reserve backstop, but we'll see what happens here. I'm very interested to see if he gets some FaceTime here with Michael Saylor. That's the interaction I'm very curious about, because I do think that's going to be a very interesting one. If he decides to talk with Michael Saylor, clearly doing very well with his accumulation of Bitcoin. They may have some interesting conversations that could possibly influence, President Trump to go in a specific direction. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there's actual policy and that's not all just personality.
Yeah. Let's hope so. It could be the Woodstock of cryptocurrencies. I don't know if we're going to start having, little events where people follow them like, deadheads do. That wouldn't shock me. But yeah, things are kind of crazy, here in crypto, but really, really excited for what's going to happen by the end of this week. I do think when we talk next week, we're going to be having a very interesting conversation. So do you have any thoughts, any takes, any predictions on what you think we're going to hear about this week, Pete?
I expect there will be a lot of attempts at blending in with the local Nashville Broadway culture. Imagine there'll be cowboy hats and some yalls thrown out there. But no, I'm not. It's not an event I traditionally have followed due to the very nascent DeFi
Sure.
going on over there.
I mean, personally, I think when I think of orange and I think of Nashville, I think of Nashville hot chicken. So that's making me really hungry, actually. But I was thinking you could tokenize. There's no reason to tokenize Nashville hot chicken. So, but in any case, it is what it is. So we'll go ahead and move on to more traditional DeFi news. Something that just came up in my timeline that I thought was quite interesting is that Atari, great website by the way, arcade.fun. Check this out. I'll put this in the chat right now. And what's really interesting about arcade.fun, this is from Atari. This is a way to connect your wallet, or rather create a wallet through Coinbase Smart Wallet, because they're launching on Base, a way to play Atari games online. Classics like Asteroids. I think Pong is on here as well. They've got other games coming, even some of the newer ones, I'm guessing. But yeah, to be able to play classic Atari games online, playing to unfortunately, my childhood here, to age me a little bit here. Some people may not even know what this is or understand what Air Sea Battle or the worst video game of all time, E.T. or Yar's Revenge, one of these two, to play from the very, very old. I guess the original Pac-Man was on Atari as well. And actually, the base logo looks a lot like Pac-Man. You could make that argument. So this is all part of On-Chain Summer, which is really cool that they've put this together. And they've created a decentralized loyalty program through the leaderboards with Stack.so. And just putting this all together, just really cool. Good to see. Obviously, this is not necessarily an innovation because it's older games, but to be able to start to bring more of this stuff online, if anything, just to preserve it. I think, to me, that's the one thing.
On-chain leaderboards, that's super cool to me too.
Yeah. And I personally haven't. I mean, people are clearly already playing it, because I think they launched, I want to say they launched Monday. And there are some people like, Sir Papa Crypto here, who is he's grinding it out on Asteroids and what other games they have there. So if you end up making it pretty good, let us know. I'd love to celebrate anybody on the leaderboard at the Atari Club. I did join the Atari Club, just wondering if they had governance or something like that, because they do have a way to vote for things. But you will actually be in the running for prizes based on these things. What you would spend $1,000 on at Atari.com is beyond me, but I don't know. I don't know. But there are weekly winners, ways to win. Feel free to check out arcade.fun if you I don't know if you were on that episode. We talked about someone who was able to take not ordinals, but yes, it would be ordinals technically. They were able to fit an SNES or PlayStation 1 of the two emulators into the blocks, into the metadata of a specific NFT mechanism. But regardless, so you could play games like you can play ROMs. It's just the emulator itself that they were able to fit in there. So, so not the first time we've seen something like this, but still really cool that it's coming from Atari themselves. Interesting that, that they're bringing this to the space. Atari makes more than old games, of course, right? So the fact that they could, start to leverage this on chain to possibly have, on-chain gaming in a time where, on-chain gaming has had its struggles for the last couple of years, as you know, Pete. I don't know.
I mean, it's a pretty cool crossover for Base as well. I mean, that's kind of getting into that traditional space. Because I feel like Polygon has done a pretty good job of just kind of business development side, getting their name out there with a lot of people like Starbucks and other companies, and doing rewards programs. And so it's cool to see another blockchain get in there.
Oh, you have to mint this to play this. Now that's different. Okay. I thought this was just playing like a web applet. Is this an NFT you can play? Now that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look in more into this because that's actually pretty interesting because we have talked about the ability of having apps as a service too, like instance as a service, where you would actually just deploy an instance of an actual game installation, and it has a number on it, so it's non-fungible. But regardless of that, um, so that's your game and your game only. I think that's interesting. That's actually very interesting, especially if you're doing like a roguelike game or something like that, where or like something like No Man's Sky, for example, where the game is different every time because it's randomly generated. To be able to actually have that deployed on a blockchain level and have that tracked and stuff like that, I think it's pretty interesting. Uh, yeah, the fact that it says mint and play now, that to me is very interesting. That actually gets my attention quite a bit. So, and we're gonna have to talk about this, Susan. She's an angel investor in the company that has created this. So yeah, definitely we'll have to talk more about this and learn more about how this works because it's very interesting. Very interesting how this works. So all right, I want to go ahead and move on to a couple more things. In terms of DeFi news, Atari is one of two companies making some interesting blockchain moves. The other one I want to talk to you about today, EP, before we move on to beefy stuff, is Toyota. And Toyota has come out with this interesting paper uh, published last week from the Toyota Blockchain Lab. Did you know they had a blockchain lab?
I did not.
No, I did not. And as someone who drives a minivan, well known for renting minivans when I go to events, because I like having, a nice comfy wagon to drive people around with. So, Sienna owners,
Do you
good to
know if
see you.
they're based in Japan or in US
I want to say they're based in
for their block?
Japan. Yeah, it looks like it's so acknowledgement to A42X NTT Data, which would be a Japanese firm. My guess is that they're based in Japan, but they're talking about something called, so we have EOAs, right? Externally owned accounts. They've talked here about MOAs or mobility oriented accounts. So they're talking about, having public vehicles or anything that moves as public entities trackable on the blockchain. This is specifically about cars, right? Because that's Toyota's specialty, right? They have a full process, the Toyota process. If you want to know about lean development, you can look up the Toyota process. But the idea that they can actually store information on the blockchain. This is extending ERC4337, which is the wallet initiative, actually, right? With account abstraction, stuff like that, building on this to create these MOA accounts so that cars can become their own entity on the blockchain with their own programmability, their own, rights and tokenizations, kind of based on what people have talked about and on how, I guess Elon Musk talked about ride sharing with Teslas as the future, where you don't actually own your car, you just own cars for a specific amount of time, and they can come and pick you up with the self-driving. This is actually very interesting, and I'll put this. This will be in the show notes, of course. But if anybody wants to read along, I mean, this is like the merging of like multiple narratives, right? Because you have AI, you have AI, IoT, MOA now, and just cars. So thinking about this from like a high level, yes, this is about cars, but you could also make this about supply chain things, right? You could have supply chains become MOAs, infrastructure points. Not only could you, make a great example of this, and this is a fairly regular Web2 real world example. Are you familiar, EP, with the freestyle machines, the drink machines, the freestyle drink machines, like, like
Oh
you can
yeah,
go
yeah,
see them at
yeah.
like Wendy's, movie theaters.
Mm.
Those are all internet connected. I don't know if you knew that. And the levels of the syrup and all of that is tracked remotely. If it falls within a specific tolerance, it will automatically dispatch a service person to go out and refill based on what's available And so it's really interesting that they can make it that efficient. No different than how McDonald's works. When a new McDonald's, because I think a new McDonald's opens 24 hours or something like that across the globe, they have a very intricate IT back end that they can get, and from an IT perspective, they can get a McDonald's up and running in less than 24 hours into the network. Like everything tracked down to the ice cream machine, which always breaks, which I now know is, to in my knowledge, just by design. So they know exactly what the levels are of everything in that store. It's all connected to this major super network. Imagine all of this decentralized with decentralized assets, where users or parts of the journey are now owned by actual entities. Because they're talking about a very interesting word here. And the interesting word here is, let's see, key tokens. But in this, yes, the down here, let me keep going. Yes, present user's address and NFT to the IVD, which I guess is their system that talks about all this. The ability to now drive a car based on an NFT that you own, which can then be tracked with different things. And, this is just one use case, right? There's a lot of course, Web 2 type of tech that could be built into this, but think about this from the perspective of supply chain and logistics, which is something that Walmart and Amazon are already doing, by the way. The ability to track fleets, the ability to track supplies, materials through blockchain tech that is immutable, right? That's the main reason. It's immutable and it's public. So they can have third-party auditing on their process to make sure everything is doing well, or, for example, shareholders or something like that. The ability to have all of this available as data points is interesting to see. Now, we don't know much about how this is going to move on, because this is more of just a proposal they've put out. But they do have a blockchain lab, which I think is, fantastic in terms of pushing stuff like this over. Now, they've talked about EIP 7702, which, and again, not to get too far in the weeds, it's another Ethereum improvement protocol proposal, which will bring about a new type of code for EOAs that allow them to, I guess, converts the signing accounts, not necessarily the same as the origin transaction, to smart contract wallets for the duration of that transaction. So again, way deep in the weeds. People are like, what does that even mean? Honestly, I don't even know what that means. But it sounds interesting enough that, this could all become a very normal thing in the future. Because think about this from like things we talked about before, like NFT utility. If we finally get to the private blockchain, model, where we have things like insurance data, health data, all of this can be put in. Maybe it's a little bit too big brothery for you, but the ability that you might be able to actually own all of this data, that's the part that is compelling. So just want to get your thoughts on this. I know this is something that is way in the weeds and probably melts people's brains just from hearing it. But what do you think about what the future that Toyota is building here? Is it cool or is it dystopian?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, when it's an option and not like the only way to use a vehicle, I think it's really cool. It's kind of like a tokenized timeshare almost. Like
Yeah.
the car is like a timeshare. It's like, okay, you own this, and I guess it can kind of set like when probably you have the ability to call it to come to you, or what you can, I guess, even use within the car. It looks like maybe that's for like child safety, or premium features about what you can use inside the car. But yeah, I think this is definitely very cool at this stage for sure.
I think this
And
definitely has the potential to be at least disruptive. Because let's be honest, blockchain models are not the most efficient. They never have been, and most likely they never will be. But they allow us
yeah,
the
when
ability
you're kind of
to,
balancing between decentralization versus, yeah,
yeah,
it's about that trilemma, or
yeah. Because the one thing that you have to worry about here is trust, right? How can I trust that the system won't, completely screw me in something like this? There are still some tangibles you can't specifically, account for in this system. But the fact that the tech is out there, that they're looking to build this type of stuff, I think really cool, really bullish. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens from this. And this is just one model, right? This is not the end all be all. Um, I think a lot of it will happen as we start to change how we fuel cars. I think that could be something that could be interesting as well, because if y'all don't know, there's a whole market for carbon credits that's decentralized on the blockchain. Take that for what you will. Could you tie that into this? Maybe. I don't know. Does this disrupt the rental car industry? Possibly. The used car market? Maybe. There's a bunch of things you can do here, but good on Toyota for seeing an opportunity on existing technology to try and build on and really just make something interesting. Like I said, as we talked about, if you've seen Susan's interview on Total Value Locked, that we're still in experimentation mode. A lot of this is very early, but we're seeing what's going to be the seeds for what's going to be the future world that we live in terms of how we do business. So, yeah, very cool. Well, I wanted to now take our time to what we've learned to talk about the great Beefy. And it's hard for me to not call it Beefy Finance because I've been in since day one. Back when it was still competing, on Polygon, on BNB chain, out there, what used to be called
Well, BSC, of
BSC.
course, back then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
BSC back then, right. Um, looking at, and it was in competition with other things like 11 Finance and RoboFarm and not RoboFarm, AutoFarm, and some of these that were out there that now Beefy's still here. The others, I think they're still there, but Beefy by far, is the market leader. If you haven't been to Beefy, or know very little about what Beefy is what we call a yield optimizer in this space. And what they do is they provide vaults on top of existing protocols to try and get you a better rate, just better return on investment. But one thing that they do very well is auto compounding. I'm not going to, I'll have you explain all of this, Pete, because I don't want to speak on behalf of
And
Beefy.
also
But
just go to beefy.com too instead of
beefy.com
beefy.finance.
is great. Yeah, I don't know why. Because I go there so much, I probably just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You
I mean,
probably start typing beefy and just hit enter and
exactly. Yeah, it's no secret that I love Beefy very much. I don't. I make no claims against it. I'm very pleased with my experience at Beefy. They're up to 894 vaults across 21 different blockchains now, which is crazy. Uh, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm happy to be a happy user of the experience. Since 2020. Um, when it comes to people looking for yield farming opportunities, I look at Beefy first. Why? They're the de facto place to check for good yield opportunities. It works the best for what I do personally because I'm a busy person. I don't have a ton of time to farm. If I can set and forget my position, Beefy is a very good place to do that. They provide a variety of liquidity providers. They have great vetting standards in terms of security. So they give me that peace of mind that I'm not going into some pool that's going to rug or just go away. Doesn't mean that those pools don't go away. They do retire vaults from time to time, but I will get good rates and I'll get the convenience that I'm looking for. We have multiple examples on our TVL site of examples where I've done on trainings. Literally, you can click through and set up a position in less than 30 seconds in some cases, and it's amazing. During our boot camp, I set up a position on Linex from scratch, and I kept looking back at the Beefy tab because like this is why this is so much better because I had to approve 5 separate transactions in consecutive order, and it took like 30 minutes to set up that position. And I know I could have done that in less than 5 minutes if I had done it on Beefy. But that's the convenience of Beefy. Beefy also takes security very seriously, which is something that I like. And but yeah, not to glaze you guys too much. Feel free to introduce a little bit more about Beefy of things that I have not said.
yeah, I mean, so our two non-negotiables are security and then ease of use. So um, we have very strict security standards, which are very well described in our documentation. And so if you see it on our UI, then you know it's passed all those checks. And so I think if you're short on time, it's for that reason a very good idea to check Beefy first because you don't have to do that kind of security assessment for yourself. I mean, I still recommend that you do those for yourselves and never take anyone's. Don't trust anyone. Um,
Don't trust, verify. We say it all the time.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, um, I'm very intimate with our process, and I know it goes through those checks before it shows up here. And then the other thing is you just try and make it ease of use, and always trying to improve both like getting into and then out of different positions, or being able to see your data, see your profit and loss, um, so you can actually see the work that Beefy is doing for you. Because like we're not the source of any of these yields, or usually we're not the source, but um, right now we do have our Arbitrum long-term incentive program going on, which we are providing additional rewards on top of everything else that's going on. And so yeah, so we definitely wanted to be transparent of like what the work that Beefy's doing and the value that we're providing for us, and why you would pay a performance fee for using Beefy.
Right. And I wanted to kind of bring this up. So this wallet that I have connected here is the wallet that I use on TVL. It's our TVL wallet. A lot of people will ask, because I did sort here by APY, are the rates real? Yeah, they're pretty real. As you can see here, I have $224 deposited here at Beefy. I'm earning roughly about $11 in monthly yield off of my investments. 36 cents a day, earning 64%. Tell me what account you have at your bank that will give you that. Tell me what account you have at your brokerage that will give you that. And the fact that you get to control this yourself with self-custody. This is the reason why we use DeFi. Absolutely. And we can do this in a fairly safe and secure manner. Again, safety score here for all of these pools. Check the ones that are all, wow, you got to give them that, eh? for all green. And they're very transparent about this type of stuff in terms of the safety score. So they will tell you, what is part of the safety score and if there's any issues with that. So one thing I do appreciate about Beefy is that they're very transparent about why they gave scores. You can check the TVL, the price, and the APY of these pools, these vaults over time. And in my opinion, this is where I start when I'm looking for farms like on our Beacon Farming Spotlight, which comes out every Friday for TVL members, and every Thursday for our mastermind members with their full version. Just finding the best rates for things. And specifically, let's say that I'm just looking at blue chips, or let's just go with ETH. The idea that I can literally earn more than 100% using ETH and a stable coin, to me in today's market, absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. And you have a version of this that's automated as well, the CLM Vault. Let me see if I can. This is ETH and DAI, so this is a stable coin, earning 190% roughly. So yeah, the rates are
Yeah,
absolutely real.
so and that's yeah, and that was just released today, or within the past 24 hours. So we've had our CLMs out there for a while now, but now we've got the full Beefy experience with automating the entire thing. So no longer for any of those which have the CLM vaults deployed already, um, you don't have to claim those additional rewards. Those are all compounded back into more CLM tokens.
I see. Okay.
But then we do have our LTI PP on top of that, which you can claim whenever you like. Since that's a grant that was given to us by the Arbitrum Foundation, we are not selling our grant. We are providing that to the users for them to choose whatever they would like to do with it, which
Yes, and just
includes
remember that's
zapping
until
back into the
September
vault.
2nd. Yeah, September 2nd is the last day for those LTIP incentives. So you can claim that up until obviously past that as well, but you won't be getting any more after September 2nd unless something happens and they change that. I did want to talk a little bit about these CLM vaults, EP, because CLM, or concentrated liquidity, which is their your automated concentrated liquidity engine. These vaults are, which is really just taking a position and just managing it yourselves, rebalancing it. Auto comp. Do you auto compound the gains, or is it just managing
So
the?
now that now so there's there's kind of like 3 different levels of the CLM. So you have the actual
Okay.
base CLM. And so for something like a Uniswap,
Okay.
that base CLM is compounding the trading fees which are generated by the actual underlying exchange.
Okay.
So in all instances, the CLM is basically maintaining a position, keeping it in range, and kind of if price kind of moves, it moves with the price, and it doesn't do kind of an active rebalancing. If it becomes skewed, it just kind of does a secondary position where it's able to be like traded into, but it will collect fees instead of basically paying the swap fees to do any sort of rebalancing. So that's kind of like the base layer is like keeping your position managed. And then for most of the exchanges that you use kind of the Uniswap model, where if you're providing liquidity directly to Uniswap, your fees for people trading through the pool would accumulate, but you would have to claim them. And if you want to like compound it, you would then have to deposit into your same, usually with like an NFT for your position. So the base CLM is doing all of that. And then kind of the next level is those which say CLM pool. And so now basically we kind of just went ahead and did everything. We made a CLM pool for everything, whether or not this part is 100% necessary. But if there are rewards, like kind of like farming rewards on top of the actual trading fees, um, then those go into the reward pool. And so this is kind of how like our classic Beefy reward pool works, where you stake Beefy and the portion of protocol revenues paid out in ETH, and then you can claim the ETH and do whatever you would like with that ETH. So that's the same kind of concept with the reward pool. Is that you can, and if you like hover the APY, you can kind of see what's going where, or like where's that's coming from. So like for this one, there is a reward pool, but all of the revenue is from the actual trading fees, which are being compounded to go from the APR to the APY. But we can have rewards either provided by Beefy or they can be provided by a partner. And then also for protocols like Ramses and then Velodrome and Aerodrome, where either a portion or all of the trading fees actually go to the VE NFT voters. Then the additional RAM or additional ARB or Velo or Arrow, which you get instead, actually goes to the reward pool. And then the next level is that if you have the Beefy Vault, is that any of those things which are going to the reward pool are actually being, it's like built on top of the reward pool. And so it claims all those incentives that go to the reward pool and gets compounded into more of the actual CLM tokens, which is kind of basically how all of our classic vaults function more or less, is you get more LP tokens or more of whatever it is that you're staking from all of the rewards which are generated. And then I guess the final layer is the boost, which this is when Beefy is working with a partner specifically. And so, yeah, if you can click that, you can scroll down, you can see the boost is active for just started like 6 hours ago. So once you deposit it, you're able to basically stake into the boost, and then you'll start accumulating additional rewards. And so this is what we're doing with kind of these grants that we're kind of forwarding onto our users, so that we don't like sell the grant. We're just providing the grant, and then the users can do whatever they would like with it.
So to answer Karen's question, DP, so the yield is paid generally for anything that has a yield that's paid. It's generally either in partner tokens, right? Or it's in, yeah, normally it's in partner tokens, right? Or are there other types of rewards that you can claim outside
So
of things that are being auto compounded?
if you're in the vault, there can be multiple sources of yield, but in the end, they're all being compounded back to whatever it is that you're staking. So if you're in just like a USDC vault, which is built on top of Aave, then you're just getting more USDC. In this one, it's a ETH plus WETH. You're going to get more of those concentrated liquidity position tokens. So you're always getting more of what you stake, and so the actual sources of the yield can be varied. So it can be from trading fees from the actual exchange itself, or it can be in lending protocols, it can be the actual interest paid. You can have additional farming rewards on top of that too. You can have it like instead of or on top of. And so when you're in the vault, that's getting compounded as well. If you're just in the pool, all those additional farming rewards are available to be claimed at your leisure. So if you're in the pool, it's being paid in some other token. If you're in the vault, it's being paid in more of whatever it is that you're staking. Is like the simplest way to probably answer that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this has definitely changed a lot of how people are looking at this, because there are other automated liquidity providers with regards to concentrated liquidity. There's ones like Gamma, Arrakis, Aperture, Ichi, Camino on Solana. There are others. They do things a little bit differently than what you guys do, right? Because what they do is they take a position, they have parameters, much like you guys do,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just rebalance once the price between the two assets reaches a certain area on the price curve. You guys do it a little bit differently. Can you explain about how your side pools specifically
Yeah.
work with regards to concentrated liquidity?
Yeah, so I mean, you've got a number of different ways that you can handle this. All of them do have some trade-offs that you're making, depending on which way you go. So what Beefy does is that whenever you are creating, so say you're creating this CLM position for the first time, like you're the developer who's created this vault and you're the first depositor. Um, for the very first time, you're going to deposit only with 50-50 balance of the tokens. And so it's going to have a range, which basically it's whatever the current price is, plus or minus whatever the specified kind of width of the position is. So we don't go really ultra narrow on anything which isn't like correlated. So like a wrap stick ETH or like a stable pair. We because this is meant to be pretty passive, we kind of you can kind of see there what the range is for like the ratio between the two assets are, and so that's where the liquidity is at. It's between those two prices. And then so price moves and it's not always 50-50 with the tokens that you have. And so what we do is we create a secondary position, which is when it first starts out, it's going to be single sided. It's going to be set out of range, but it's only going to be one tick out of range. So as soon as the price moves even one tick back that direction, it becomes an in range position. But for both of these, because they're liquidity pools, whenever tokens get rebalanced in a liquidity pool by people making trades, that's the nature of how they work. Um, but instead of like paying to actually swap those tokens to rebalance it, to where you're paying slippage and price impact and actual swap fees, we just provide it passively. And so it puts you into a position where people can trade into it, and you can still have IL from this, even though we're not actively doing it. By putting that token in that position for people to swap into, there can still be some IL. But whenever it's rebalancing, you're collecting fees instead of paying them. So I think it's a really good trade-off for that IL risk that you have, is to collect fees instead of pay them.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. You guys started out back in early April with like 4 or 5 pools, right? As a test on
Yeah, just like
Arbitrum.
just our beta.
Yeah, with
Oh yeah.
On just Uniswap, and now you are
hmm
on multiple chains,
hmm
using multiple different concentrated liquidity providers like Ramses, Velodrome, Aerodrome, Sushi. There's a whole gamut across multiple chains that are out there. Um, I guess this is saying that the majority of the testing has gone really well, right? Because I think the proof's in the pudding. A lot of people are in here. We're seeing multiple. Some of these vaults are fairly small, to be quite honest, but overall, in some of them, they're quite large.
Yeah, and
We're
so those
seeing,
those vaults were just released in the past like 6 hours, so they're very new.
yeah, yeah,
And what you see as far as the TVL goes is what's just in the vault. So the actual reward pool underlying that vault, um, a lot of those have a lot more TVL, and we're still kind of making some updates here. So um, on the actual TVL to make sure it's not getting like double count or anything. But yeah, you can kind of see. So um, I think once we have everything finished, like when you're hovering on a vault, you'll see what's in specifically the CLM across the vault and the reward pool, and not just the vault. And then also, of course, what's in the actual pool itself across all providers, whether people are providing it directly or through another liquidity manager.
Yeah. So, with that said, you mentioned some of these are new, these new CLM vaults. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what would be the main draw into going into one of these vaults as opposed to just sticking with one of these CLM pools,
Yeah, so I
besides
mean,
the
the reason
incentives?
we Yeah, so I mean, we're providing our basically we just kind of had to get all the UI elements ironed out because really, I mean, people come to Beefy for the fully automated experience, like they want to deposit and then pretty much be done. But if you actually are bullish on whatever the asset is, be it Arrow or be it RAM or ARB or anything else, you still have the option of staking in the reward pool and claiming those rewards, and then kind of either you can lock them like an aerodrome to vote with it, um, or like I mean, basically, it's like, do you want only the assets you're staking, or do you want these other tokens too? So for me, I came to Beefy because I just wanted to deposit and get more of what it is I'm staking. So I'm in the vaults, and now that they're available. And really, it's just kind of there's just a lot of work for all these elements, and that's the reason that the vaults came later.
That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. So, in your opinion, I mean, obviously, I don't know how many vaults are here that are CLM, but it's a good chunk, and you guys are on your way to getting up to 1,000 vaults. Uh, what what do you think is going to be the makeup over time with regards to CLM on Beefy? Will the majority of pools start to turn that way, or will you still continue to optimize, V2 style XYK AMM vaults?
We're going to do whatever opportunities are available since we're building on top of other protocols. It definitely seems like it's gone more and more the path of concentrated liquidity. And then the other thing is that basically the number, like, there's no real requirement for a CLM other than there being the tokens available on the exchange, and most of the exchanges are pretty decentralized in that manner. So, um, like, there doesn't have to be a farm in order for us to release a CLM.
Right.
So that's the big thing that I mean the opportunities are pretty much endless for CLM. So I think there definitely will be more CLM than not uh, as we go forward. But if there's still Uniswap V2 style with farms, then we'll be there too. It's kind of it's up to the market.
Um, I will say the one thing that I love about Beefy is the Zap. For a lot of people who are not understanding what that means, is that I can come in here and let's just say I'm just going by stablecoin. Let's say that I want to go into let me go non-CLM. Oh, let's say I want to be on the base blockchain and I go into this USD plus my position for 32%. What's great about this is that, if I'm on base, I don't have USD plus or my, that's okay. I can come in here. If I want to deposit, I can just select any token that I have here in my wallet. For example, I can just use this existing arrow that I have here, and I can take 100% of that here based on the slider, or 75%, and it'll actually go through and handle all of these things I would have to do manually in one transaction. It takes 20 minutes of work, puts it into a very simple transaction that you, of course, will have to approve and go through. Uh, it's so convenient. It gives me the peace of mind and just the convenience. Obviously, there's a zap fee for some of these of 0.05%. That's fine with me because it saves me so much time.
Yeah, I
There
mean
are
at Beefy
there are
we
some farms where you
definitely
don't have
are.
this, right?
Well, if you're zapping, then the zap has a zap fee, and it's so it's at
Right.
0.05%. I mean, we're all about paying for good. Like if it's a valuable service, all about paying value for a valuable service. I mean, I think that's pretty fair to do. It's the same thing with our
Yeah.
performance fee.
Yeah. And I know there's a couple that don't do it. Like I think we were looking at, oh, oh, I know it. That's going to be on Linea because we were doing this on the boot camp. So for example, if I was going to get into, something like, let's say this points farm here. Oh, actually, that one's good. I'm looking for one. Maybe okay. Maybe I need to bring LP in here. So, Linex is one, Balancer is another that I know you guys are working on. Um, I'm assuming that it's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
be something
So
that'll easily be done soon.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, eventually everything's going to be zappable. Balancer is another big one, which isn't zappable at the moment. And so definitely just obviously there's a lot of stuff going on, but for sure everything will be available. And so even if in anyone which does have the Zap available, you have the option to make the LP yourself and just deposit the LP with no fee.
That's true.
So yeah, and yeah, so I mean it's optional. I think that's another big thing too. Is like it's not a deposit fee. It's a Zap fee for building the LP on your behalf.
Honestly, I think it's worth paying for. 0.05% is really not that much, especially if I'm going to be, through the work of the smart contract, it'll do it correctly and do it in the most optimized way where I don't have to sit here and spend time doing it. For me, this is part of my whole maintenance, process of going through and taking as little time as possible with the max peace of mind. It makes it very, very trivial to come in, and obviously this is a fairly low rate, but still, to be able to come in and uh, to just come into a position literally with, just a couple clicks of the mouse. For example, if I'm here wanting to go in on, let's say, ETH on Pendle, I guess, through Equilibria, I have to build LP there, but
Yeah.
maybe that's the worst example. Let me go Stargate. Stargate's better. There you go, Stargate. I can literally do, the wrapped ETH vault on Stargate getting 6%. You can treat this almost like a savings account if you really want to. And you can just come in with anything you have. It'll take care of it all for you, literally within 2 clicks of the mouse. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And yeah,
And also, I mean, depending on kind of the sophistication of the user, there's still a lot of users that are swapping on Uniswap's website and paying a fee and
exactly.
not getting the best trade when they're only using one exchange as their liquidity source. So right now we partner with Kyberswap and 1inch, and we definitely are hopefully now that kind of CLM's pretty close to being kind of like done. Like we're obviously going to keep adding more opportunities, but that's a lot easier than kind of what we've done to this point. We're definitely going to look to add another provider as well to so that whichever provider is giving you the best kind of return, you can go with that one. So similar to kind of what DeFi what DeFi Llama does with their swap because they're
Right.
basically aggregator.
Yep. Exactly. That's why we recommend them for our users. So going to try and push you for a little bit of alpha here. I was gonna go into at some point, but obviously we have Linea here. You can get in on, that's not all of Linea. Let's go all Linea here because they have their airdrop going on. You can farm here for points. When's Scroll coming?
It should be soon. I think there might actually be one blockchain kind of in there pretty quickly before
Oh,
that.
oh, does it rhyme with a specific word?
It's like got a period in the middle of it, so I don't actually know how you say it.
No, that's fine. It's got a period in the middle. I like it. Very
But
nice.
I mean, the alpha is always in our GitHub, so
There you
anyone
go.
wants to snoop, you can just check out our GitHub and see what's going on in there.
There you go. I mean, that's the other thing too. It's open source, much like many great projects here in the space. If you're a developer, it's worth, if you want to get in the space, find a job in the space, to be able to work here full time, do this type of stuff, help contribute to great projects like Beefy. We're a little bit over time, but I want to thank you so much, Pete, for coming on and describing the CLMs, describing just the greatness that is Beefy, and I know I talk about Beefy a lot, but in my opinion, it's well warranted. It's one of the best, most lindy protocols in all of DeFi. And I recommend if you're looking for an easy place to get started with regards to just setting up your first position, do it at Beefy. And
And
as you start setting
we
up
have
more, learn more.
we have great support as well. So if you're kind of getting stumped with anything on our UI or something with blockchain, of course, obviously, you have a great community for people to ask questions, but we are experts on Beefy. So if you have any Beefy specific questions, our Discord is a great place for getting those questions answered.
Yeah. Mastermind Pete's a member of our mastermind as well. As in TVL, he's a user there. You're more than welcome to ask questions. Anything you want to plug, Pete, before we go?
Yeah, I mean, just there's very, very high incentives right now as people are still waking up and getting deposited into the new CLM vault. So definitely go check out the CLM vaults on Arbitrum and check out the really high APY you can get as an early adopter.
Okay, so that we should make that qualification too. It's just now on Arbitrum for the moment, right?
Yeah, so that's we've done some incentives on Optimism as well recently
Mm-hmm.
because we have a very like the first round of Optimism grant. We still have funds from that that
Okay.
we've been using to provide incentives as well. But I mean, yeah, just all the ones that have the kind of the crossed out APYs with an orange one. Those boosts are the ones that we kind of are providing right now. We just launched a bunch on Arbitrum using our LTI grant. And there's also some that are on the pools as well. So there's some going to pools, but now there's vaults, so it's just kind of like another step now. So now, like going forward, the vaults are going to be available at the same time as reward pools, and so you'll have the option to do whichever one you want. Um, but yeah, since the vaults are new, we're definitely trying to get people moved into those, and so get the full Beefy auto compounding experience there.
Excellent. And of course, it's always cheaper to manually compound yourself, but it's much more convenient and much more capital efficient to just do it through something like Beefy. There are other auto compounders out there, but none of them are in the same league as Beefy, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, your time is valuable, so
Exactly.
it's all up to you what you use that time for.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks, Pete, for being here today as our guest. It's been about 6 weeks since we had you on panel, so excited to have you back on rotation sometime soon. So I want to thank you again for your time. Again, Pete from beefy.com. Please check them out. One of the best protocols in all of DeFi. Hopefully, TBC, I said that everything you wanted me to say there. Excellent. Again, follow us every week here at 1 p.m. Eastern here on our YouTube and our Twitter channel. Feel free to follow us as you need to. And of course, like and subscribe. Like it for the algorithm. Would love for you to do that. And hopefully you found great value here. Of course, if you have, please join our free group, school.com/beacon. Learn from the best in the business. Stuff we've learned from things like Beefy and other great places. They're at your fingertips to be able to make your crypto that you may get because you just got into crypto work for you. It's more than just holding it. You can make it work for you. We'll show you how. That said, we'll see you next week for another great panel. 1 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday here on our channel. Thanks again, Pete. We'll see you later. 07. Beacons up. Banks down. See you later, guys.